Hi, I'm Angel, and today I'm here to review I, Tonya. This is a biopic about a great figure skating legend in the USA, Tonya Harding, and she's kind of infamous, sadly, for an incident that involved her and her figure skating rival, Nancy Kerrigan. And the world of figure skating was shooketh. Overall, I would say this movie is good. It's enjoyable. Biopics tend to be long and drawn out and boring and colorless and bleh. This one has layers and has personality, but I'm not sure about the personality it's putting forth. There are some issues I'm gonna get into. So if you like colorful things and you like figure skating, you will enjoy this movie, even though it covers somebody who had a very difficult life and a difficult upbringing. So there are scenes, if you're sensitive to violence, domestic violence, things of this nature, child abuse, poverty, you will be kind of bothered by a few scenes in this movie. However, the first thing that struck me about I, Tonya was the tone. It starts off in this kind of lighthearted tone, almost like Ocean's 11-ish or American Made, that recent movie that was just terrible. And I didn't think that it was fitting for the things we were seeing. But the first title card does tell us that this movie is based on the video interviews, wildly contradictory apparently, of Tonya Harding and her ex-husband Jeff Gillespie, I believe. Spoiler alert, he changes his name eventually, and that's a good thing he did. Even though this movie is trying to be different and lighthearted in its approach to a biopic, I left the movie with a heavy sentiment. I stayed during the credits, I couldn't move, I just felt struck by all of the injustices and hardships that Tonya Harding had gone through in her life. And what I think the movie was trying to do, maybe the director, the writers, I don't know who was responsible for this choice, but it felt like they weren't taking a stance on the truth. They were presenting multiple versions of the truth based on the testimonials given by the many parties involved in Tonya Harding's life, from her mother to her coach, to her bodyguard, to her boyfriend and husband, Jeff. And in most biopics, the director makes a choice. They look at the evidence, the writers get together and they decide, okay, this is going to be our perspective on this person's life. It might not be 100% true, but given the facts we have, we're gonna make a judgment call and depict these events in this tone to deliver this kind of message. But here I'm telling you, it really feels like they didn't know what was true or what was not. For example, you have a scene where Jeff is telling his version of the truth and he's saying how Tonya shot a gun at him. And they're showing that scene unfold before our eyes with the voiceover, right? But then Tonya breaks the fourth wall during that scene, turns to the camera, to the audience basically, and says, this never happened. And it felt like they just didn't want to choose whose truth was more credible or who they wanted to stand behind. Tonya says she was abused. The husband denies ever hitting Tonya, this kind of thing, you know? I'm not sure how I feel about that kind of approach. At first I was kind of taken aback by it and not too favorable to it. But the more you think about it, the more it's kind of fair in the sense that none of us really know the truth and every person comes with their set of perspectives, but also with their set of lies. We all gloss over life events, sometimes unwittingly. Our memories are just faulty. So it's really difficult to do a biopic. So Margot Robbie plays Tonya Harding and she does a great job, really. I forgot that I was watching an actress. I actually thought I was watching Tonya's life, even though in real life I would personally say that Tonya Harding looks more like Amy Adams, who I think would have brought a very compelling performance as well to this role. But I think Margot actually invested in the making of this movie. She wanted it to happen, so she wasn't just the actress, the lead, she was also a producer. And bravo, really, a very memorable performance. Especially the figure skating. My goodness, girl, how did you recreate those scenes? Twisting your body into those positions and doing them jumps and everything, looking flawless. Sometimes you could kind of see like the CGI green screen going on, like faces weren't matched on bodies properly. I don't know what was going on there, but really, it was well produced. For those who don't know, basically, Tonya Harding was a figure skater. She was slaying the game. She was the underdog, you know, the broke girl who came from nothing, who came into a world that cost a lot of money to enter. And at the point in her career when she was going to the Olympics for the second time, I believe, she was against Nancy Kerrigan, who was TV and everybody's favorite because she was what the world of figure skating wanted a figure skater representing America in an international competition to be. Shiny, pretty, rich. So coming into this movie, I was hoping we would see Nancy's story as well. We would get her perspective, or we would know more about the dynamic between Nancy and Tonya, their friendship or rivalry that was more set up by the media than it was, I think, in reality. You know how the media girls do it. Tonya just mentions that they were friends, but that's all we have to go by. Maybe Nancy didn't want anything to do with this movie and she didn't agree to having her likeness portrayed. I mean, I can understand, right? What basically happened is somebody hit her in the knee, I think with a crowbar or a metal rod during one of her practices leading up to the Olympics, gravely injuring her, but not taking her out of the game. And, well, spoiler alert, I mean, it's old news. It had something to do with Tonya Harding. A lot of people thought Tonya did it herself. And this biopic shows that, well, no, it wasn't really her. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed on that aspect. I wanted more of Nancy. But this was clearly all about Tonya and who she is. But still never really gives us a clear idea. You see Tonya go through a lot in her life. Even the most rudimentary of psychologists today would tell you is not normal behavior. She thought things like being physically abused by the people you love is how love is showed because of the very cold mother she had. Her mother is played by Allison Janney, by the way, who is phenomenal in everything she does. I love that woman. But her character, whoo, this woman has issues. I don't know if she's been abused in her childhood. She mentioned that moment that she didn't like her mother, so it's like normal to her for kids not to like their mothers, but I don't know what trauma she's been through. She clearly didn't want this kid and it has so much anger in her and ball of mess. Her mother, even though she was a monster, I have to say it, she did sacrifice a lot to give Tonya the life she wanted. Baby Tonya wanted to skate, mama made it happen. And that is what mamas do. They come through for their kids, but emotionally, I'm sorry, you have to be there emotionally for your kids. That's like number one for me. I don't know who it's not number one for, but if you think throwing money and a career at your children is what's gonna sustain them on a long-term basis, you clearly know nothing about life. The dynamic between those two was very interesting to see unfold on screen. This kind of mother trying to build her daughter up and yet tear her down at every opportunity. It was a lot. Sebastian Stan played Jeff, the husband, but I don't know. He did what he could, but I wasn't interested in this character. I really wasn't. I also thought it was weird that Tonya says this guy is the guy who beat her. Like, he's so shrimpy and unassuming and meek. You don't expect him to be the kind of guy who would be physically abusive towards her. Luckily for me, I don't know much about abusive people. I have watched a lot of true crime shows in my day. A lot of times, abusive people have a darkness in their eyes that they can't hide, no matter how meek and unassuming they are. Unless they're sociopaths. I don't think they have anything in their eyes. This actor has such kind eyes, it was really hard to see him as an offending or threatening person. But then at the end, they do show a actual clip of Jeff and Tonya, and I did see something in his face. There's just like a aura about him that I was like, yeah, he probably hit her. I can understand how, especially when you see the way Tonya was brought up, why she would lie about Jeff, especially after the fact, after everything has gone down with Nancy and all. Why she would say terrible things about him and why she would be inclined to say that he did things that maybe he didn't do, just to assassinate his character, just to relieve herself of frustration. However, she talks about all of these things and the abuse so matter-of-factly that it doesn't feel like she's making this up. It really feels like this is just another part of her life that has been so normal for her that she doesn't know how to feel terrible about it because she really had to adapt to the circumstances of her life. And one thing that was a bit disappointing is how much she didn't want to take responsibility for what happened to her. To a certain extent, I agree. A lot of things that happened to her were obviously, especially as a child, were not her fault, were not caused by her. But she did make some decisions as an adult that she needs to put her big girl pants on for and own that contributed to where her life went. But I get it. Girl needed love. Hello, everyone does. And if you're not getting that from family, you're gonna find it in the darkest of corners. She found love in a hopeless place. Really, in the end, you know, it's kind of a tragedy for every party involved because I watched the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics. Okay, I only watched the figure skating. And a lot of the girls were slipping up and falling and not giving me height, and they were doing a great job. Like, I can't even stand on ice and never ever will. They show that performance that she gave at the peak of her career. It was flawless. The heights that she had, the way she jumped off the floor, like she was angry at the floor, like she wanted to fly, amazing. The tightness of her spins were just on point, so tight and woo! And she could do a triple, which apparently she was the first woman ever to attempt this on ice and nail it. And her lands, my God, they took my breath away. She would land with such confidence and blah. You know, a lot of the girls in the Olympics would land and be like, ah, like, whoa, I almost fell, but I made it. But she was just like, landed. I knew I would do that. Yes, that's how I intended to land. So I did. She was just incredible, an incredible figure skater. Now I'm saying that obviously with no knowledge of figure skating, I don't have a breadth of experience and blah, blah, blah. If you know more, comment section, let me know. It's weird to say spoiler for a real live event. A lot of people know how this ends. However, some people might still want the magic mystery of cinema, so I'm going to respect that. So I would just say overall, yes, it's a good movie. I do recommend people see it. If you like figure skating, if you're curious about the whole Tonya Harding v. Nancy Kerrigan situation, but more about Tonya herself, go ahead. It's interesting, but it's really all about her. So you're not going to learn more about the world of figure skating. Well, kind of. And Nancy and their dynamic. Before we go, like this video, subscribe to Music Game News, and let's spoil it, shall we? The spoils. Okay, I just wanted to talk about the fact that that judge, that salty, crusty judge, gave her one of the most unfair sentencings, I think, ever. First of all, she wasn't even charged with like being guilty of the act or plotting it or anything. She found out that Jeff and that goon who thinks he's a spy is responsible. She didn't really run to the authorities and be like, I got information, I think he did it. Even when it happened and she heard that Nancy was hit, her first instinct was, oh no, what did Jeff do, right? So she knows her bae is like a mess and she didn't do anything about it. Fine. However, to sentence her with, okay, blah, 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 community service, good things, to ban somebody from the only thing that defined their whole life, to forbid her from ever figure skating again, I thought was kind of inhumane. She even said, I would rather take jail time than you cut me from the one thing that always made sense to me that I've been doing since I was 4. Like, this isn't just something she picked up. This is something she went out of her way to do, something she did not have access to, but was naturally built and born to do. And she is one of the best. We're not talking about just some girl who figure skates for fun. No, one of the best, you know? You are seriously cutting her off. She didn't even do it. I would understand if you thought she was guilty, right? And that she's the one who did all this. Yeah, ban her from figure skating. That would be fair. It's like you tried to take away another woman's right to figure skate forever, then you should get that punishment in return. Keep that same energy. However, no, if you don't even think that she's guilty, you just think that she didn't do the right thing in coming forward with information, this is not a fair punishment at all. It felt just vindictive. I don't know if that judge had a fight with his wife or something, or he was mad at his mom or that day, but he came in like hating women. Oh, so cute, you're twirling on ice? Well, I'm gonna take that away from you. Like, you don't understand, this is her calling. Now, I know when you zoom out in the larger scope of life, she gets to be free. She's not in prison. She gets to find a new passion. She gets to live out her days as a human being in society, which a lot would argue, girlfriends, zip it. You have no idea how much better that is than to be in prison. But when you put yourself in Tonya's shoes, you understand how she could be like, yeah, prison isn't that much of a stretch from what I've already lived, what I've already grown up in as a kid. I know fighting, I know abuse, I know hard times, I know poverty. So prison, I can do that. I don't know, it just felt like they wanted to cut her where it hurts. Oh. So yeah, I get it. When you step back, you're like, girl, it's a career. You can do a lot more with your life, and that's not what's gonna define you. You can enjoy life in other ways. I mean, she does become a boxer in the end. She channeled that energy, right? But it's just sad. She needed help. There's even a moment with her mom at the end where you think, oh my gosh, she's gonna get a mother out of all of this. And her mom finally sees her at her lowest of the lows, and she's gonna come through and be like, look, you know, I'm a terrible mom. I don't know how to do this motherly affection caring thing, but I've tried to cut you down. Finally, life did. I'm here. Let's build this thing over. Let's start fresh. No, mama was just trying to get money out of her child, use her and abuse her even more. How you gonna kick someone when they're down? A mother. I just wanted to mention quickly, Paul Walter Hauser plays Sean, the bodyguard, and this character is just like extra. He is basically Dwight from The Office, who takes himself way too seriously. And he like thinks he's a spy and he's a covert operative for I don't know what secret organization. So he knows things and he's like 10 steps ahead of the game. And yet he's living at home with his parents. But he believes himself so much that you almost stop and you're like, you know what? It kind of would make sense for a spy to be so unassuming, to live the way he does and look the way he does and just stuff his face all the time and be like the guy living at his mom's house when he's like 40, because that's the person you would least suspect of being an international spy with state secrets. But at the same time, I don't think a spy would publicly volunteer this information out and be like, yes, I know things because I'm a spy. So yeah, no, he's crazy. But the actor did a great job. Really, when you see the real footage, you're like, wow, you studied your character. He even reminded me of that one dude from The Walking Dead. That same kind of, actually talks the same. Negative. Incorrect. And the last thing I wanted to say was a word on the world of figure skating. I guess it's the world of sports in general, where you think as a spectator that it's about the sport, right? The strongest athlete, the most accomplished, the most trained athlete is the one that will win. And then it's like, nah, when there's money involved, it's actually about the whole package. And we see this with Tonya, how she was consistently cut down even in her prime, by judges and people of the world of figure skating. And I'm just excited that things are turning around. I hope they're turning around. I mean, we're seeing the underbelly, the dust under the rug being lifted in the world of sports. I'm thinking of that gymnast doctor. I don't want to give him attention or mentions or whatever, but that monster has been convicted for his crimes. I hope that all those who covered for him will also be snatched and placed where they belong. But yeah, that's a beginning. The abuse that these kids go through just to make money for other people, it's not right. It's not right. All right, there you have it, my review of I, Tonya. I'd say it's a good thing. I don't know, what did you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, like this video, subscribe to Music Game News. Are there any other movies or TV shows you would like me to review? I think I'm gonna do Netflix shows because I don't see many reviews about them, and I'm always on Netflix. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comment section below. Take care. Love you. Peace. I'm Angel out.